Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. I was 35, 6 weeks away from marrying Allison Cooper, and I thought I knew exactly where my life was headed. We'd been together for 4 years, built a home out of a modest two-bedroom house on the east side of town, and survived the kind of growing pains that end weaker relationships. I liked that about us. Allison worked in marketing, and part of her job meant the occasional conference or networking trip. When she told me about a 3-day brand summit in Austin, I didn't think twice. Her best friend, Harper Miles, was going along, and they had plans to mix business with some sightseeing. It sounded harmless. The night before she left, we had dinner together, something low-key. After she went to bed, I stayed up, scrolling through the conference app on my phone, just out of curiosity. That's when I saw something that made me pause. The list of guest speakers included a familiar name, Samuel Drake. Allison had dated him in college years before me. She'd mentioned him once or twice, but always in a dismissive way, like he belonged to a different life. Still, the sight of his name gave me a small, unwelcome chill. I didn't say anything that night. But the next morning, while I was carrying her suitcase down to the car, I brought it up. "Samuel Drake's on the speaker list," I said, watching her reaction. She waved it off with a quick laugh. "Bradley, Samuel is ancient history," she said, shaking her head. "I doubt I'll even see him there. And if I do, so what? I love you. He doesn't matter." Her tone was casual, confident, and I wanted to believe her. I wasn't the jealous type, never had been. So I let it drop. She smiled, promised she would send me photos, and said she was looking forward to coming back home to real life. I kissed her goodbye, and she drove off with Harper. At that point, I didn't know that the trip I had brushed off so easily would be the one that tore everything apart. The first day in Austin went as expected. Allison sent me a couple of photos, her and Harper outside the convention center, smiling. Later that night, she texted me a shot of the two of them at a rooftop bar with a group of other attendees. Everyone looked relaxed, drinks lifted toward the camera. I replied with a simple, "Looks fun. Don't drink all the cocktails without me." She answered back with a heart emoji. I went to bed with no reason to worry. Day 2 felt different. Her texts slowed. Instead of paragraphs, I was getting one-line answers. "Busy. Talk later." When I suggested a quick video call before she turned in, she shot back, "Too tired tonight. Maybe tomorrow." It was unusual, but I reminded myself she was probably just caught up in the conference schedule. Early the next morning, I got a notification on my phone, a fraud alert from the credit card company. A charge had come through at 2:17 a.m., a rideshare drop-off at South Congress Tower Apartments. I knew the hotel she was staying at. It wasn't anywhere near that address. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. My first thought wasn't panic, it was calculation. Maybe she was sharing a ride with colleagues, maybe the billing was off. I waited. 15 minutes later, another notification popped up. This one wasn't automated. It was a message from Harper. "Bradley, I don't know how to say this, but Allison didn't come back to the room last night. You should probably call me." I dialed immediately. Harper answered on the second ring, her voice low and hesitant, like she already regretted reaching out. She said they'd all been at an after-party, and Allison left with some people. She wouldn't say who, but the pause in her voice told me she knew. "Was it Samuel?" I asked. Harper didn't confirm, but she didn't deny it either. The silence was answer enough. I thanked her for telling me and kept my voice steady. My chest felt tight, but my head was clear. Something was happening, and I needed the facts. Every one of them. I called Allison around noon that day. She answered on the third ring, her voice a little too bright, like she was putting on a performance. "Hey, babe," she said. "We're about to head into another panel. Can this wait?" I didn't waste time. "Where did you stay last night?" There was a pause. "What do you mean?" "At the hotel." I let the silence hang before saying, "I got an alert from our card. Rideshare drop-off at South Congress Tower. That's not your hotel." Her tone shifted, a crack in the polish. "Oh, that. I went back with some colleagues after the mixer. I had too much to drink and crashed on their couch. It was late, safer than walking back alone." I asked again, slower this time. "Was it Samuel Drake's place?" She didn't answer right away. Finally, she said, "Yes." But it wasn't like that. We just talked. I fell asleep. That's all. Her words were quick, almost rehearsed, but they didn't land the way she hoped. You expect me to believe you accidentally spent the night at your ex's place, unplanned? I kept my voice calm, level. And you weren't going to tell me? I was going to, she rushed out. Bradley, nothing happened. You're overthinking this. I didn't argue. I just said, send me the address then. Her hesitation told me more than any confession could. I don't think that's necessary, she said finally. Not long after, Harper uploaded a photo from the previous night. A group shot at the after-party, people smiling, glasses raised. Off to the side, Allison and Samuel stood shoulder to shoulder, closer than casual, time-stamped well past midnight. I saved the picture, along with the rideshare receipt. Proof was stacking up. When I put the phone down, I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad either. I just knew this wasn't going away with excuses. I needed the truth, and sooner or later, she would have to give it to me. Allison came back from Austin on a Wednesday afternoon. She rolled her suitcase up the driveway like nothing had happened. I was waiting at the kitchen table with a stack of vendor folders, the rideshare receipt printed out, and Harper's photo on my phone. Bradley, she said, smiling too widely. I missed you. She dropped her bag and reached for me, but I didn't move. Sit down, I told her. My tone was flat, controlled. Her smile faded. She slid into the chair across from me. You want to tell me again where you spent Monday night? I asked. She shifted in her seat. I told you, I drank too much. I didn't feel safe walking back alone, so I placed the rideshare receipt on the table, sliding it toward her. South Congress Tower Apartments, 2:17 in the morning. Her throat worked as she swallowed. That's Samuel's building, but it's not what you think. We were just catching up. I passed out on the couch. I pulled up Harper's photo and turned the phone toward her. You look cozy for people just catching up. Her voice cracked. It wasn't romantic. I swear. I didn't even remember falling asleep until morning. You could have called Harper. You could have called an Uber. Instead, you went home with your ex 6 weeks before our wedding and didn't think it was worth mentioning. She leaned forward, desperate now. I didn't think it mattered. It was nothing. One stupid night. Why are you blowing this up? Because trust isn't built on secrets, I said. If Harper hadn't told me, you'd have walked in here today smiling like none of it happened. Tears filled her eyes, but I stayed steady. The wedding is on hold, I continued, until you're ready to tell me the truth, all of it. There's no wedding. She looked at me in shock, like she never believed I'd actually draw a line. But I meant it. And in that moment, I knew she wasn't going to give me the truth. The next morning, I started making calls. The florist, the caterer, the venue. Some deposits were gone for good, and others I managed to recover in part. Every conversation was short, businesslike. I wasn't going to explain myself to vendors. The message was simple. The event was canceled, with no rescheduled date. Then came the families. To keep gossip from spiraling, I suggested a joint meeting at our house. Both sets of parents sat stiffly in the living room, while Allison and I stood in front of them like defendants. I kept it brief. The wedding isn't happening, I said. I can't marry someone who spent the night at her ex's apartment weeks before the ceremony. That's all there is to it. Allison jumped in quickly. It wasn't like that. I was drunk. I didn't mean for it to happen. Nothing physical happened. Her mother gasped. My father shook his head slowly. The silence stretched until I pulled out my phone and read aloud a text I'd received that morning. Harper had forwarded me a message from Samuel himself. She left my place around 8 the next morning. I shouldn't have let her stay, but she insisted she was too tired to go back. The room went still. Allison's face drained of color. Enough said, I told the families. We don't need to drag this out. We'll split what needs splitting, and Allison will move her things out by the end of the week. Her father tried to interject, but I raised a hand. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to set terms. No smear campaigns, no drama. Clean break. Allison stared at me with wide, wet eyes. Bradley, please. It was one mistake. One night. Don't throw us away over this. But I'd already made my decision. I wasn't throwing anything away. She had. I was just cutting the cord. By the time everyone left, the engagement was officially over. The house was quiet, and for the first time in days, I felt like I had my footing back. The week after Allison moved out was the hardest. Half the closet was empty, drawers half filled, a silence in the house that didn't feel natural yet. But instead of sitting in it, I pushed forward. I adjusted the mortgage paperwork, called a contractor to finish repairs on the spare bathroom, and kept myself moving. The routine gave me control. Harper checked in a few times, mostly about logistics. There was no gossip in her voice, no digging, just practical conversation. I respected that. One evening, over coffee at a quiet diner, Harper mentioned an idea. "You know the deposit we can't get back from the venue?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "That's money down the drain." "Not necessarily. The community center's been trying to raise funds for its youth program. What if we use the booking as a fundraiser night? No wedding, just an event. At least it wouldn't go to waste." The suggestion surprised me, but it made sense. Something good out of something broken. I agreed. A month later, we stood side by side at the venue on what would have been the rehearsal night. Instead of floral centerpieces, there were donation jars. People showed up, neighbors, co-workers, even some family members who'd quietly supported me through the breakup. Harper and I just stood near the back, watching kids from the program perform their set. "Better than a wedding rehearsal," I said under my breath. She smiled but didn't push further. It was a reminder that my life wasn't ending. It was being rebuilt, piece by piece, on steadier ground. And that, more than anything, kept me moving forward. 2 months passed before Allison reached out again. She asked if we could meet, said she wanted to clear the air and return the ring early. I agreed, but on my terms, neutral ground, a cafe near downtown. She walked in looking polished, as if she had dressed to reclaim control. The moment she sat down, her tone was sharp. "You humiliated me, Bradley, telling both families, canceling everything like I was some criminal." I stirred my coffee slowly. "I didn't humiliate you. Your choices did. I just made them visible." Her eyes narrowed. "It was one night. I was drunk. You blew it up into a scandal." I pulled my phone from my pocket and slid it across the table. On the screen was Samuel's text, the one Harper had forwarded weeks earlier. "He confirmed you stayed until morning. That's not a rumor. That's a fact." Her face twisted. "You're pathetic, leaning on my ex to justify ending us. Do you realize how small that makes you look?" I kept my voice level. "This isn't about Samuel. It's about honesty. You didn't give me any until you were cornered." She sat back, arms folded tight, and then blurted it out. "Fine. I just wanted one last crazy night before I settled down. That's all it was. A stupid impulse. It didn't mean anything." The words hung heavy between us. That single line confirmed everything I needed to know. She hadn't just made a mistake, she had rationalized it, as if marriage were a cage and betrayal a farewell party. I leaned in slightly. "If that's your idea of crazy, you were never ready for marriage in the first place." Her face flushed red. She stood abruptly, pulled the ring from her purse, and dropped it on the table. "Good luck, Bradley. You'll need it." I picked up the ring, pocketed it, and finished my coffee while she stormed out. Later that night, my phone buzzed with a final message from her. "So it's true. You and Harper." I didn't bother replying. Silence was the only answer left. By the time autumn came around, the house was fully mine. The paperwork was complete, Allison's name off the mortgage, and her things long gone. The space didn't feel empty anymore. It felt reclaimed. After the breakup, Allison tried circling back to Samuel. Friends told me she reached out to him more than once, hoping to turn that one last crazy night into something solid. But Samuel didn't play along. He ignored her messages at first, then finally told her he wasn't interested in reopening old chapters. Whatever had happened between them was nothing more than a moment she'd tried to stretch into more. When that door closed, she moved into a small apartment downtown, keeping her distance from everyone who knew the full story. She leaned on work, kept herself busy, and avoided mutual friends whenever possible. In the end, she lost both the man she was supposed to marry and the ex she thought might catch her if she fell back. There was no safety net, just the quiet consequence of choices she couldn't take back. Harper and I saw each other more often, but carefully. It wasn't some sudden romance. She never pushed, never gloated. She just showed up when she said she would. After what I'd been through, that reliability mattered more than anything. On the Saturday that would have been the wedding day, I ran a 10K that looped past the old venue. Outside the gates, the community board still had a poster thanking donors from the fundraiser we'd hosted. Seeing it, I realized the money and effort hadn't been wasted. It had simply been redirected into something better. When I crossed the finish line, I didn't feel regret. I felt steady. Allison's betrayal had knocked the air out of me, but it hadn't broken me. She had traded loyalty for one night, I had traded her for peace, clarity, and eventually, someone who respected me enough to tell me the truth. That night, Harper and I sat on my porch, watching the neighborhood quiet down. She asked if I was glad I hadn't gone through with the wedding. I thought for a moment, then answered plainly, "I'm glad I didn't marry the wrong person. That's enough." She smiled, and we didn't need to say anything more. The path I'd been walking with Allison had ended, but it hadn't left me stranded. It had simply forced me onto a different road, one I chose for myself, without lies, without secrets. For the first time in months, I felt like I wasn't moving away from something. I was moving toward it. Thank you for watching.